Y'all know what time it is. It is the one. It is the only In the Scope podcast with your boy, Joshua M. Hicks, senior writer for War Media. You can catch me on the Instagram and the Twitter at Josh M. Hicks Media. Last week was a lot of fun. Had my guy Ryan Cheverini on the show. Spit a lot of great wisdom and information for these young journalists to get out there in the game, especially me, because I'm one of those guys, you know? But at the end of the day, it's all about scopes and different lenses. That's what this show is all about. And I got a different lens for you guys that come from a guest perspective that's coming on my show today. It's a former college football player at UCF. And this man has, in the ways, in my opinion, changed the way and how you actually social network when it comes to athletes in general. And he's going to talk about that on the show because he's the co-founder of Gametime, or GMTM for short. And I'm so glad to bring this CEO on, man, to talk about what the importance of social networking and being able to find talent across the athletic realm. It's changing the game. Y'all need to tap into it. And I have the perfect guy to talk about it, the CEO of this company, Mr. Joey Grant. Joey, how you doing, man?
Joshua M. Hicks, it is good to be with you, sir. Glad to be on the show and talk all things sports, opportunities, whatever we want to talk about and dig into. I'm ready for it and happy to be here with you.
Oh, man, I'm glad to have you on, man. Let's just jump right into it because you're a sports guy yourself. You played college football at UCF. I want to say that is for Central Florida for people that may not know too much about the college sports realm. So talk about pretty much your sports career. How did you fall in love with sports throughout your younger profile, and how to get to where you got to UCF and play in a more big time scale such as that?
Totally, yeah. So I grew up playing sports. Really, my whole life. Started playing competitive sports. Baseball was my first love. Around 6 or 7 years old, that was kind of on the up and coming of the youth club circuit, AAU, USSSA, and jumped right into that world. And really kind of how I think about it now is, sports is a vehicle for opportunities. You play sports, it's fun, it's competitive, you're on a team, but ultimately sports can help you change your life, provide different opportunities at every single stage, at every kind of point in your career. And the cool thing about being an athlete is you can set that North Star, you can set that compass, what you want to chase, the dreams you want to go after. And for me, playing travel baseball, club baseball, AAU, very quickly we were winning tournaments, getting accolades and awards, kind of fuel to the fire of, wow, this is something I want to be truly great at. And so started in baseball, played basketball and football as well. Football became more and more of my passion as, I went from just being, a third baseman to a first baseman and a pitcher in baseball to getting taller, about 6'3", 225, bigger frame, where football was becoming a little bit more of my deal and what I was passionate about, but also what my kind of skill set and what I was able to achieve on the field was getting recognition by school. So started getting, recruited in high school, first for baseball, but then ultimately scholarships to come play football. Was like a Rivals 2-star, ESPN, like all of this. So it wasn't like a big time recruit by any means. But also, at the time as a 3-sport athlete, the recruiting process at the time and even still now in a lot of ways is super confusing. So, tough to know how to get exposure, all of these things. But luckily, I started for 3 years, at an 8A school in Florida, enough people watching to get an opportunity. Ended up, staying home at UCF. Made the decision in 2010. So crazy enough, 12 years ago. It's crazy. I mean, we're all getting, I'm an old head now, but, decided to stay home, just being able to see, what was being built in Orlando, and, fell in love with the program and started my college career at UCF there, and a lot of successful things that we accomplished during my time. My roommate was Blake Bortles, who was our starting quarterback. We had a top 10 program my sophomore year. Started my career at defensive line, and the last 3 years, sophomore through senior year, at center. Started every game that I was healthy. So good career and kind of led me into the next chapter. But that's kind of a snapshot of the sports career. Happy to dig in on any one of those things, even more.
That's interesting. Especially when you talk about the Blake Bortles component. Because Blake Bortles, he had a, I guess we could use the term interesting NFL career, to say the least, But what was Blake Bortles really like at UCF? Because around the draft and leading up to that, he was a pretty hot commodity. Like, people really looked at him as that next franchise quarterback when they drafted him. So what was he really like to be around and to play with as a teammate? At UCF.
Yeah, he had an interesting career at UCF, even because he's 6'5", he's got all of the physical attributes, and he actually came in at the same time as a freshman quarterback, Jeff Godfrey, who actually came in early, was the same age as Blake, but took UCF to a Liberty Bowl where they beat Georgia and AJ Green in a bowl game, off the bat. So Blake immediately wasn't even starting, as a freshman. He just kind of was coming in there and really from day one had to battle. So, and he did, and he just put in the work, eventually won out the job, started the rest of his career. But Blake is he's the biggest winner I've ever met in terms of just a competitor and a teammate and someone that a locker room will rally around, just like he was able to, help rally the Jags, although they had an elite defense, but taking them to an AFC championship game, being a play away, Stephon Gilmore tip away from being in a Super Bowl. They were up 28-10 at halftime. He had 3 touchdowns in the first half. Like, people forget a lot of these things. And obviously I'm biased, but, from seeing his time in college, he's just the ultimate competitor, the guy that, took us from not being ranked to a top 25 season, a top 10 season. Granted, UCF is just talented. Everybody on that offense in 2014, I think, played in the NFL. But ultimately, great leader, great competitor, an awesome human, just a guy that is truly in the trenches, whether you're a lineman, a receiver, running back, like, if something's going on, like, Blake's going to be the first guy in, kind of leading the charge. So, it was a pleasure playing for him, and he's a good friend as well.
Well, you're talking about digging in the trenches. You were in the trenches with him, especially on the offense side of the ball. Your offensive lineman. You don't look like that now. So if you want to go into that aspect of things,
Sure.
how did that transformation came from being an offensive lineman to where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously physically there was changes in terms of like losing weight and whatnot. And, my big thing is when I played, I was always obsessed when I went to UCF. I wanted to be the youngest general manager in NFL history. I evaluated players, I scouted, I worked with different agencies to evaluate offensive and defensive linemen, helped get and build relationships with some pretty key guys in different areas, but just, loved kind of the business and personnel side of sports, the recruiting, if you may, talent identification, all of that stuff. So I actually, as soon as I finished playing, my career was ended due to injuries. I had a couple shoulder surgeries that, pretty much as an offensive lineman, it's tough to overcome. And so, that was, how my career ended, but immediately worked in actually recruiting for UCF. Helping to put, transition to staff over to Scott Frost, built one of the probably the best recruiting class in school history, while I was there. Mackenzie Milton, Gabe Davis, Richie Grant, a bunch of different draft picks, kind of big profile guys that we were able to bring in and get the program to even new heights, national championships. Not that I did any of that, but hoping to be a part of at least the evaluation of some key guys that went into it. But that ultimately just got me into the business side, and then eventually just getting super into technology. Initially I worked for Johnson & Johnson. I did medical device sales, but my parents are entrepreneurs. I have really, just a deep desire to win, to learn, to grow. And that naturally kind of took me into how could I impact sports on a greater scale, help maximize truly the opportunities that sports represent. And that is what, led me to what I'm doing now at Gametime and GMTM is just this natural progression of being a player, getting my opportunity, getting a scholarship. At UCF, I ended up getting 3 degrees. I got an undergraduate and then 2 masters while I played in my 5 years there. So maximize the opportunities to the fullest. And in my graduate studies of, the sports landscape, just was really studying the business of sports, how, college sports worked, related to the general university, as well as, pro leagues, deals, worked on some collective bargaining agreement stuff. So just really understanding the life cycle of an athlete and the sports ecosystem, and then getting more into technology and like how through product, through various things can, actually help implement change has really been the through line of my journey in sports.
Ooh, geez, you said an undergrad degree and 2 masters in 5 years.
Yeah, correct.
What was, well, before I jump into that aspect of it, because first of all, congratulations. That's a lot. So, especially as an athlete, I understand that, you did your thing with that. So congratulations to you for that. What was the actual studies that you went through? What did you get your undergrad and both your masters in?
Yep. So I was one of the first high school to college athletes to graduate early. So I enrolled in January of my freshman year, kind of really on the first wave, one of the first guys at UCF to do that. So came in and had some credits, had some kind of momentum coming into school. A lot of credit to UCF and, specifically Christy Belden, some of the just the support staff that helped talk with me about my goals, really understood what I wanted to do. My undergraduate was in entrepreneurial business management. So just basically undergraduate business management, but an entrepreneurial track. Finished that after my redshirt sophomore year, after we won the Fiesta Bowl. And then I got into the DeVos Sports Management program. I was the first active athlete to be accepted, and that's a dual master's program. So I got my master's in business, my MBA, and then a master's in sports business management, where it's basically studying the intersection of a lot of MBA business case study strategy type stuff, but then also the sports aspect, analytics, how these businesses are built, how they work, all of the inner workings of the industry of sports. And so I did that my junior and senior year as I finished my playing time at UCF.
That's wild, man. That's that's wild. I'm a current graduate student that's about to graduate in literally less than 2 months, and I'm sitting here like, yo, I'm ready to be done. So I totally understand what it means to go through that. But you got 2 masters while playing. Talk about that work balance life. Because for me personally, I'm a former athlete myself.
Yeah.
I had a little game, wasn't the highest recruit or anything like that, but I had a little game. Played at NAIA level, Division One. I think I want to think it was that time, either D1 or D2 NAIA basketball. Played there for about 2 years, but I still had that life of being an athlete, playing consistently on a 24/7 job while trying to handle academia, and that was very very difficult to do, especially since depending on the program that you're at, that's 24/7. Film study, 2 or 3 a day workouts, plans, practices, traveling on the road. Like that is a lot to encompass when it comes to the life of a college athlete, especially if you're only 18, 19 years old. Like that's a lot to, that can be thrown at you. How are you able to handle that work-life balance during your playing days and be able to transfer some of that into your current status now of being a full-time owner of a business?
Yeah, there's a lot of just figuring it out on the go, right? I mean, that's life, right? Everybody has a plan till you get punched in the face type of deal, right? But at the end of the day, it's just kind of showing up every single day. And for me, at the beginning of my career and getting into college, I always recognized that I wanted to use sports as a vehicle for opportunity and really understand how it could help me in my life. And I knew that I was going to pour 100% into my game to being the absolute best player. And really, I kind of think about it even more agnostically of even just sports, but being the best in the world at something, right? That is just a trait and a mindset and kind of a discipline that you build as a person that can be applied to different things. So the tough thing in sports is a lot of times it gets tough because guys get caught up in their identity of just being an athlete, but they really don't understand that all of these things that they're building to just be an elite person that happens to be an athlete can actually be applied in different fields that they're also interested in. Some guys understand that more innately. I was lucky enough to be surrounded by a good support system that was always my approach, was being really intentional about, yeah, I'm going to start, 30 plus games at my position and be a leader on the team. But most importantly, I'm going to do whatever I can to maximize my time here and the school's willingness to pay for my academics to get as much as I could out of it. Right. Just kind of in the spirit of, again, just trying to be the best, honestly. And so, and just, it was a blur, honestly. It was so much in terms of like how to actually manage it, the long hours, the long days. I mentioned my injury, right? That's like for my 2 years in my graduate program, I was also balancing trying to rehab and being completely unhealthy for essentially like 2 years of my life through getting, these degrees and being on the team that, again, I'm glad that I'm on this side now and I have all of these lessons. And, as an athlete, you face different moments in your life that help you build, character and a baseline work ethic to get through things and to be open and to be learning. And so, that's kind of the mindset that I had going through, and just try to balance it the best I could really on a day-to-day basis. For our team, I was the first athlete to do this. There was a lot of first I was going through. So everybody was kind of figuring out on the fly, and we did our best and we did good. So
what were some of the biggest lessons that you had to learn to achieve what you did during that time? Because like you said, there was a lot of firsts for student athletes when it came to you stepping into the role that you did. And if it's something that's unheard of, it's always going to be, always need that learning curve when you making history. But as you were making that history, what were some of those lessons that you had to learn to propel you and prepare you for the moments you're dealing with right now?
Yeah, I think it's just, kind of knowing where you want to go. There's kind of, you want to know where you really want to go, but then you have to be in the moment, right? You can't always just be, projecting or planning where you want to go. You can't always just be doing and, ramming against something or dealing with hard things without kind of a grand plan, without a real direction or a real compass, or setting tangible goals and working back. And I think you don't want to over index on either as well, where I think a lot of the things that I learned was, if I were to tell myself what I had to go through before going through it, I don't know if I would have wanted to do it, right? But setting a compass and setting a direction and then showing up every day and being accountable, you figure it out. And I think you really push yourself. Normally for people, we don't like pushing ourselves. We like being comfortable. We don't like being uncomfortable. And it's really hard to balance how we're doing things that are making us better and getting us closer to where we want to be in the future, or the impact we want to have, but also in a way that is realistic that we're going to do in terms of, comfort or time or energy that has to be spent. And so, I would say what I learned the most, to sum it up, is just being willing to plan, have ambitious goals to make ambitious impact, but showing up to do the work through the discomfort and out of the spirit of just getting better and just doing your best.
And obviously, learning those lessons brought you to where you are now, which is great, And before we jump to that topic, everybody you're listening right now, if you're just now tuning in, you're actually tuning into a heck of a guy who is super smart, intelligent, and that's a crazy work ethic, because the dude got 2 masters in the undergrad while playing college football and rehabbing. If that doesn't inspire you to do better, you should. I would check yourself. His name is he's the CEO of GMTM Gametime, Joey Grant. Joey, well, let's transition to now your new endeavors. You talk about how you're glad you're not on that side anymore. I'm glad too, because that's a lot. But now you're on this side where you are managing and operating your own sports business.
Yeah.
What was the moment for you that gave you that light bulb of, okay, this is where I need to go to fulfill Gametime? Like, what was that moment where you realized this is what I needed to do?
Yeah, it actually, so it starts really with me starting to work in recruiting at UCF. Because the interesting thing is, we have a very marketable program. This is a lot of, when UCF, University of Central Florida, was really on the rise, where they're now much more in the media spotlight. They're in the Big 12, they're in the Power 5, really an unprecedented ascension in college sports. And as we were coming on the rise and I was running recruiting, I had this understanding that we were an organization that was trying to provide opportunities to athletes in the form of a scholarship, right? And this is a very lucrative opportunity. A lot of people would like a scholarship to play Division I football. And, as I'm doing kind of recruiting, it's just very difficult for me to educate people about the program. Hey, have you heard of UCF? Do you know what we have to offer? Even if they know kind of the top line, the UCF Knights, or they've heard about us, for athletes or people within the industry to have the information needed to vet a potential opportunity, to submit and engage with the information that's necessary for you as an evaluator to make a decision. There was no infrastructure for any of this at all. I basically had to do everything myself. And at the same time, we were spending a lot of money in recruiting. So it's kind of like, what are we spending our money on? Is it actually making a difference in terms of the amount of people that we can reach and the amount of relationships that we can build and cultivate to build the best potential to bring the best student athletes into the program? That's going to get us the most wins, right? That's kind of how it works. That's the formula. And so really seeing that, while I was in the trenches kind of doing that work, that always really stuck with me. And again, thinking about sports as a vehicle for opportunities, where if you zoom out, it's not just UCF's football program. Every college in America, every sport, every coach, every camp, every organization that is in the sport industry, from youth sports, high school sports, college, even NFL, Olympic, all of these organizations have the same problem, where it's accessing athletes and providing access for athletes of any predicament, wherever, whatever location, whatever means, whatever geography, whatever you have, providing them access to an opportunity, to really equalize, where it's not, having to be able to travel to a certain location or pay money, on hotels and lodging and all of these things. It's how can we reduce the friction of an organization giving information about what they have to offer and an athlete showcasing themselves to try to get that opportunity. That was the initial light bulb. And, then there's kind of all of the actual things that were done of, my co-founder and CTO, when we've raised 2 rounds of funding, from the Bay Area, from the Valley, and, now are building towards that vision. It started in football. It's expanded. Again, we work with the Olympics, we work with NFL teams, we work with colleges, we work with camps, we work with other organizations, brands, sponsors, everybody in the sports industry, but really in the same spirit of how can we maximize the opportunities that are available to athletes and provide them infrastructure to interact with those opportunities and to tell their story in a way that continues making sports a great vehicle for opportunities for them.
How does your company translate or work with the new NIL situation, especially when you're dealing with college collegiate athletes? You talk about opportunities and providing different avenues for athletes to get the recognition and that they need, and also pursue the careers that they want. NIL is, changing the game from a recruitment perspective as well, providing opportunities for student athletes to be compensated their worth, make income for themselves. while they're being collegiate students. So talk about, how does your company in some ways either compete or use some of those resources to help booster and expand your business?
Yeah, absolutely. That's been a huge change. And kind of the framework that we think about NIL in, again, is if you think of sports as a vehicle of opportunities, name, image, likeness, NIL, for a college athlete, this is just another layer of opportunities that are available. Now they can make their money with local businesses, with brands, with sponsors who want to work with them in some way, some shape, some form. And we're in the super, super early innings of it. Right now, kind of the good is that this is only the beginning. This is going to become the norm. And we have the vision that sports is being rebuilt in real time around athletes, point blank, period, at every stage of an athlete, in every professional league, college, etc. It's all about the athletes and what you're providing them that's going to make them more likely to be successful, right? And I think we're really seeing that. But understanding that, that is going to be the norm for these athletes, and that is right, because that is sports, right? All of the, your NBA, your NFL, these organizations are valuable because of the athlete who steps on the court or on the field, right? It's not the organization, it's not the coaching staff, no offense to any of these people, right? But all of the values with the athletes who are entertaining, who have stories that fans are interested in, right? And that's the future that we believe in, and that is coming. NIL is, again, another, just an inevitable thing that is happening that is allowing these college athletes to have that. At the same time, the bad, I think, is, when you have terminology like name, image, likeness, right? You're able to create jargon and just people who are inserting themselves into the equation, looking for an opportunity. Like any gold rush, big opportunity, there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of, not real understanding of how this is going to be built, what's coming. Not that we have all of the answers, but just understanding it's super complex, it's super dynamic. And our opinion and the way that we're approaching this is, in sports, between an athlete, an organization, and brands and sponsors, these are the partnerships that maximize the value in sports, right? You have, look at the NFL draft, right? Like, think about it in this way, where Aiden Hutchinson, the number 2 overall draft pick, or, Kenny Pickett just got drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you think about their relationships, these athletes are going from Georgia or Oregon, as them as an athlete, and whoever Georgia's brands and sponsors are, they're now going under a new organization and brands that they are essentially partnering with to maximize their value and the organization's value, right? Now you have the new quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? But again, this is in unison, this is in partnership, where a lot of the solutions, a lot of the things in the industry are actually disconnected. They're not thinking about it in this holistic way. They're trying to service the athlete and trying to put deals in front of them. They're trying to just get brands these deals. They're excluding the organizations. No one is doing things in a way that is kind of building for, at least what we perceive the future as. So our platform and our company kind of helps to align these things, where, organizations can run campaigns with brands and sponsors to different athletes, current, student athletes, where they can interact with these brands. They can submit user-generated content, branded content, things and assets that these, companies and brands can use that are valuable, and doing it in a way that they're willing to actually spend dollars on to provide value directly to athletes. But again, in a different way that's unique to our platform, and that's really putting all 3 of these stakeholders, together and showcasing really like what that value is.
So in its own way, you can say Gametime is the agency for multiple parties that can help provide opportunities for both parties to get equal value, per se. Am I saying that right? Or am I saying it kind of?
Yeah, and we like to think about it just for the listeners and trying to be, the simplest is kind of like a LinkedIn for sports, right? But really it's a social network and a social platform that has an underlying intention around getting an opportunity, around making your life better, instead of LinkedIn where yours is more written and you're putting your resume. In this case, it's more visual with video that is still representing essentially your athletic resume, where all of your physical measurables and drills and highlights and even kind of more promotional, cooler, higher, more premium content can live to showcase who you are as an athlete and help get you opportunities.
Man, where were you when I was in college, man? That could have helped me out a lot.
That's what I'm saying. But hey, if you're looking to make an Olympic team, you can still do it. We have athletes that are, 25, 30, 35 years old, finding opportunities, making teams, again, just discovering the new and different ways that as an athlete, you can find opportunities, whether even in sports or areas that you may not have thought, were possible.
Well, as much as I appreciate that offer, I am not the 25, 30, 35-year-old athlete that's still playing in the Olympic realm or in a professional realm. So unfortunately, right now, that's not an opportunity for me. But there is a target audience that I do want to specifically tap into that I believe would be very useful of your services. And that is women collegiate athletes and women professional athletes, because they're so underrepresented in multiple areas. And I want to know in what ways are you specifically targeting that area to provide those resources, because clearly they're not going to get the same value worth from a financial perspective in their respective leagues. They got to get it outside of that. So what resources can you provide for that? And in a lot of ways, could that actually help boost your business when it comes to tapping into a demographic that not a lot of sponsors and NIL deals are taking place in?
Yeah, no, I mean, this is a huge kind of point of emphasis internally, and we're happy to say that almost 50% of our platform are female athletes, and some of the fastest growing sports are sports like volleyball and rowing, and are female dominant. And again, just talking through the lens of how, as a company, we think about these problems. Yes, there is a really, there's a big issue in terms of representation for players and how they can express themselves, their stories, to get more and more opportunities. There's an even deeper problem, behind that the organizations that can actually provide opportunities for female athletes, to want them to keep pursuing greatness, excellence, all of the different ways they can be compensated, they don't have nearly the means of different male organizations in terms of how they find athletes, how they build relationships with athletes. And so if you think about, how an Alabama football program would be different, you're having 50 students kind of working the phones and everything, where contrary, a women's soccer program, even in Division 1 or 1AA, 2 or 3, you have maybe a staff of 2 or 3 people total for the whole organization, who are trying to represent their program, find the best athletes, build relationships with athletes. So, we're solving it still from that perspective, where we want to enable female sports organizations, to use tools to build better relationships. Through the way that they're doing that, female athletes are naturally building, profiles, but more importantly, they're finding tangible opportunities. We don't want to just kind of like talk about it. We want to also really help be an integral part in the solution of opening up more access to more opportunities. And so we're really, really excited. And, there's so much room for improvement. We're truly, just getting started, just getting to the starting line. But luckily, we are really showing a huge impact in terms of what we can do to really move representation forward and really equalize the playing field.
So do you think that your company, Gametime, could actually be a vehicle as to why certain collegiate athletes, especially when it comes to women's NCAA, going into whatever professional women's league that they may represent, could they actually negatively impact the NIL component of things. Because if let's just say a female athlete, anyone on the team, who has a chance that maybe want to maybe go through outside ventures where they don't want to stay in college for their full 4 years and they want to go pro, whether it's in the NBA or overseas. If they've never had an NIL deal, but they have the chance to go through your company to get that additional potential opportunity, they may say, skip college, screw college, I can go get that somewhere else. Or could it help the NIL like name, image, and likeness realm when you talk about how maybe people that don't get opportunities, those type of deals from a regular business perspective, they could be the 12, 13, 14 women on the team. You go to your company and you can help them get an opportunity where they can get some type of compensation. Maybe they want to stay in college. Talk about those ups and down scenarios and where Gametime really can take that representation to a new heights.
Yeah, we kind of hope it's like a yes and type of situation where we're offering more opportunities, and then in the opportunities that these athletes have, these organizations have better infrastructure to be able to monetize and help these athletes really make deals, create more forms of different content and activations, which translate to assets that brands and sponsors and even local businesses, can tangibly see the value in. They can see the ROI of 100 athletes or 50 athletes for, this women's team, who are all posting, making content about a specific brand, sponsor, or our platform helps to organize that, database that, allow for easy distribution, to make most impact of, the athletes, the content, as well as, overlapping with all of the brand and sponsors initiatives of what, the specific content of what may be asked. So we're hoping that it's both, that, again, not only are there more opportunities, but whether it's a college or whether it's a club team or a sports league, that our platform helps provide a better infrastructure to just create more value for their athletes.
What about people like, me who may want to take this to the next level in a professional realm from a sports media perspective, sports personality aspects? What about those type of people that are in the industry that may not be making top dollar within their respective companies, but may have an opportunity to maybe do an endorsement deal with those people? Like, are you also tapping into other media realms outside of just athletes? Are you talking to sports personality and other those situations as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We are. And I would say, with a business, there's kind of different stages, just like an athlete in your career, right? And for us, we're really maniacal around kind of this first chapter of really solving for organizations, building these talent pools for their prospective athletes, current athletes. We are working on some pretty exclusive and pretty cool, other ways to use our platform for more, fan type of engagement. If you think about, again, a social network where athletes and organizations are on, fans, and we think of everybody's an athlete, right? It's just, are you a current athlete? Even coaches, they're former athletes. You're a former athlete. We're all athletes, and we all still can represent ourselves through video, and that maybe tells the best story. But long story short, that's where that is where we're headed. And so a simple use case here is this deep dive you're doing on me as an athlete through the platform. You can take the questions that you have, splice them up into kind of like a little course or kind of a little activity and campaign that athletes could go and answer questions asynchronously, right? Without you having to be on a live Zoom of, hey, tell me about when you started playing sports, what your best moment was, right? Hey, tell me your ambitions of getting brand sponsored deals. What are your interests? All of these things. Run those type of campaigns to your audience and allow them to engage. We like to say we're moving from consumption to engagement. So anything that is kind of engagement related, that has content and user generated content specifically, kind of, looking to go back and forth from an organization to an audience, our platform is going to be, a really good solution for that, where, you can visualize your audience interacting, you can share that access with other stakeholders, brands, sponsors. Hey, brand, here's a database of, here's access to X audience of my listeners that are interested in pizza, right? Or this or whatever it may be.
Okay, I'll feel that. And when you talk about, obviously, I know you talked a little bit about maybe the next steps and goals you may want to expand and take the company to. For you, Joy, what can you add on to that and just elaborate on what potential ceiling you see this company really going to when it comes to fulfilling the foundational standards and morals that you guys have within the company? What's the ultimate goals and the ceiling and where you want to take this, move this company from a direction perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's truly from one of access and connectivity, right? So obviously there are like, business goals and all of these things, but we think about it truly from a mission and visional perspective of there are 45 million youth athletes in just the United States, 8 million high school athletes. We're kind of dialed in and we're focused there to start, all the way through professional athletes, right? Expanding it globally, internationally. I mentioned that we're growing in other sports. We're also growing very rapidly in, internationally in Canada, in Europe, in South America. So we think about it in the context of just how many athletes there are, globally, a billion, active athletes in the world. And, our job and the tall task that we have is serving, that entire amount of athletes. And so we're starting, right now where we are, and the opportunity really is as big as the athletes that we can help serve and we can create more opportunities for. And on the other end, are the businesses and organizations and the sponsors, at every stage. And so there is a lot of work to be done, and with a lot of work and with a lot of challenges are opportunity, right? And so, I think it's massive, and the impact, I think, of, again, what is sports? Sports is, to me, the most equalizing vehicle for equal opportunity in our country, point blank, period, right? Whether, even if you're not a professional athlete, the lessons, the places that sports can take you can truly be life-changing, and have been really that source of change for a lot of different cultures and kind of communities within this country, and again, internationally.
Where can our audience follow you, your work, Gametime, and keep up with the things you guys are doing? Where can they follow you guys?
So if they want to sign up for the platform, if they're an athlete, if they're a coach, if they're a fan who wants to check out cool, interesting content, they can go to gmtm.com. On our homepage, you can learn more about the company. You can sign up for free right there as well. If you want to see, we have a lot of really cool content because we cover a lot of sporting events. We have a, pretty neat and really, really quality content team that does a incredible job capturing content, but across Instagram, the Twitter, like you have, we got all the socials, the TikTok, we got, tens of thousands of followers on, these platforms, and great audiences. And you can check us out there if you just type in GMTM. Some of the handles are under GMTM Sports or just GMTM, but you can find us under the branding GMTM, whether .com or on the socials. Type it in, we'll be there, and follow along. We'd love to hear from you.
What about you? You're not going to join the party and let everybody follow you on social media, see what you're doing either, man? Like,
hey, you can follow me too. Twitter would probably be the best place. I was doing a lot of writing towards the beginning of the year. I just had a little baby girl. I'm now a girl dad.
okay.
So, you have to give up some things, some trade-offs. So my writing isn't as much up to date, but I do tweet. I am active, but you can find me on the Twitter at jgrant55. 55, as Joshua can see, was my college number, double nickel, the big center there in the middle. But Twitter at jgrant55.
Well, congratulations on being a girl dad, man. It's a really big step towards, the next chapters of your life, especially as a father. So most definitely, man, congratulations to you on that. Wish you nothing but the best. And you heard it, he gave you social media, but how can you listen to my show and not follow me on social media? You can follow me on Instagram and the Twitter at Josh M. Hicks Media, as well as Ward Media, Regal Radio. You can follow us on all of our social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Regal Radio, but for sure on Instagram and Twitter, Ward Media. You can follow our website, wardmedia.substack.com, as well as all podcast platforms, War on Anchor, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, you name it. We're all over on all platforms. And you can even check this specific episode you're listening to right now on our YouTube, War Media on YouTube. You can check out and that's where you can see all of our podcasts, especially because it's pretty face here along with this handsome brother here. I mean, he's a girl dad. I mean, you can't lock that up. So come on now. Just you want to check us out in the visual component of things? Yeah, check out that Twitter and hit that subscribe button. And you'll see how we really do it around here. That being said, Joey, my guy, I truly appreciate you taking the time to come on my show on War Media's platform to talk about your scope of what it means of different lenses and what it means to be not just an entrepreneur and not just an entrepreneur, but an entrepreneur in the sports realm, and how you're helping athletes and other sports media around the world maximize their potential. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. I'd love to keep in touch with you. And as you expand on some of those things, maybe we can work on doing something together in general, and I love to continue to build this rapport and this relationship and following the work that you're doing. You're doing great stuff, man.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me on, and enjoy the conversation. And we're happy to collaborate with anyone looking to make an impact. So absolutely, I'm down to be your resident recruiting expert, sports expert, whatever you need, man. I'm here. Thank you for the coverage. Good chatting with you, and appreciate everything.
No problem, man. Thank you so much. You have a good rest of your day.